Thank you very much, Mr. Holloway, and I congratulate my right honourable friend for his persistence in bringing forward this issue again before the House. He's absolutely right to do so because it really matters. But I just think there should be a small note of humility amongst us in this country raising this issue as far as Brazil and other South American countries are concerned, because we should remember that only around 13% of the UK is covered in woods and forests, and it's not as if we're in a neighbourhood where we can't grow trees happily, because it's 44% in Europe as a whole. Now, obviously it's true that we cut down many of our trees many years ago when we didn't know the science, and we weren't as well educated as we are today, but I think it's just worth putting that on the record. We have a lot to do here in our own country, and I know many of us are absolutely passionate about that and are pressing the government to keep going on what it's doing in that area. But we are right to be here today to press the Brazilian government and others to do more, because the fate of the Amazon does quite literally guide the fate of our planet. The Amazon is a global resource, which is why, as members of Parliament here in the United Kingdom, we are having this debate today. It has global impact. And we know globally the situation is pretty catastrophic. In the last 60 years, more than half of the tropical forests worldwide have been destroyed. That is an appalling record. And given what we know today, to hear from the chairman of the Environment Committee that 5.7 football pitches worth of trees have been cut down in the Amazon every minute, means the alarm bells should be ringing here and all over the world. So let's look at what the government have done so far, and the government have not been idle on this issue. They recognise it. It was, after all, the Prime Minister who, in the run-up to COP, spoke very memorably about coal, cars, cash and trees. That's a very easy way to remember, I think, the broad headings about what we need to be doing at the moment, and trees are vitally important. So that's why the government's leadership on the Global Resource Initiative Task Force was welcome and absolutely right. That was why what we did in the Environment Act with the due diligence law on illegal forestation, and I'll say a bit more on the other part of that shortly, was also right. That, I think, is world-leading and a major advance. We should welcome it. We can push to go further, but we should welcome it. And then lastly, the Glasgow Leaders' Declaration on Forests and Land Use was also very welcome. I mean, that was 141 countries signing up to that, which cover 90% of the world's forests. So all that is good, but there is more that we need to do. And I want to mention 4 areas where I think we really can make progress. They have been mentioned before, but it's important to stress how important they are. And the first is the financial backing for this illegal deforestation. Now, the bank that I bank with was mentioned by my honourable friend, the chairman of the Environment Committee. I will be writing a letter to the managing director of that particular bank today on the basis of what he has told me. I don't want to leave that bank. It's a great bank, a great British bank. I'm not actually going to name it here, but it was one of the 3 household high street banks that he named. But I expect them to do better, and I want them to know that, as one of their customers, I'm not happy with what they're doing here. I think there is a particular issue, actually, around audit, and audit trail globally, because I think it was the Honourable Lady for Bristol East said that, some of the auditors were saying this was fine. So there are problems, whether it is polysilicon in Xinjiang and solar panels, or exactly what has happened to part of the Amazon rainforest. It is difficult for us to be absolutely sure. And we need to think more about how we can ensure, proper compliance with standards that we are all happy with. But first of all, the banks, the financial institutions must absolutely do better. Then I just want to come on to this issue of legal and illegal deforestation. Well, I think all deforestation should be concerning us greatly. One brief I read said that we think around 50% of deforestation is apparently legal. that is not good enough, and we do need to go further down that route. Now, I respect the difficulties of drafting legislation to do something about that. I know the government wrestled with this, but I think it is an issue we need to keep reminding the government a great first step on the illegal deforestation, but more to be done. And then thirdly, we must make sure that the very good commitments at COP26 from those 141 countries are actually enforced, because unfortunately there is precedent on previous declarations. The New York Declaration on Forests, for example, were great sounding words, but they weren't followed through into action. And very specifically, we must clarify what halt and reverse of forest loss actually means. Because if it's possible under that definition to destroy pristine rainforest and replace it with a commercial timber or palm oil plantation and claim there's been no net loss of forest cover, then this agreement is simply not worth the paper that it's written on, because as we know from other parts of the world where this has happened, there is a massive difference in the amount of carbon sequestered, in biodiversity loss from palm oil plantations, for example, compared with pristine rain forests. So there is more to do to drill down into the detail, and particularly, perhaps if we can understand from the Minister how the enforcement will work on the COP declaration when she comes to reply, that would be very helpful. But the main point I want to make, Mr. Hollowbone, is what all of us, every one of us, can do as consumers. Now, I have no problem in holding my government, of which I'm very proud, to account, in areas where I want it to go further and faster, where it needs a little bit of encouragement. But we all have power as consumers. When we do our weekly shop, we can make choices about what does and does not go into our shopping trolley. And I think there are very few of our constituents who don't care deeply about this issue. And I want my constituents in Leighton Buzzard, Lindsley, Dunstable, Hampton Regis, when they go to the supermarkets, to be able to be absolutely certain that what they're putting in their shopping trolleys week by week is not contributing to this problem. So the parallel I draw, Mr. Hollowbone, is with what the Fair Trade Foundation did many years ago. Now, I'm extremely proud that Leighton Buzzard in my constituency was the first town in Bedfordshire to get fair trade status. And people got it because they wanted the people producing their food to be properly looked after and fairly paid. And the Fair Trade Foundation is a global institution, respected. And when we see the logo on something, we buy with confidence because we know that people are being respected. So I have a little challenge back to, say, the likes of the World Wildlife Foundation and others, who sent us an excellent brief for today's debate. I haven't raised this with them, so they may be a bit surprised that I'm putting them, teeing them up perhaps to take on this work. But where is the global equivalent of the Fair Trade Foundation logo? So when we go to a supermarket, we absolutely know that what we're buying is not contributing to deforestation. And we've talked about the problems of audit and making absolutely sure, but you could put it the other way. Unless you can categorically prove to us that this product has not contributed to deforestation, then you don't get our logo. It's very, very simple. Make the onus the other way around. You come to us and prove, and if you do that to our satisfaction, we will then give you the logo and people will buy. And I don't know why, I don't know if I'm missing something here, but I don't know why that idea has not got legs and had more mileage, and I'd love to discuss it with other colleagues here to see if we could take that forward. Because, consumer power is significant. Governments can do a great deal. I wouldn't be a member of this House if I didn't believe in the power of government and what they can do. But it's not the only means of taking action. We can write to our banks and we can choose what we put in our shopping trolleys if we know what is good and what is not good. So that is a challenge for me to, let's say, the World Wildlife Foundation and others to perhaps think of replicating the excellent work done by the Fair Trade Foundation.